Hey, MCE crew, I'm seeing a troubling development occur. And that development is a reluctance on behalf of otherwise very intelligent people to understand that this economy, the global economy, is being drastically re-engineered and reset. Okay? The powers that be, the governments, the non-governmental organizations include groups like the World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank. These organizations are actively broadcasting that we're changing the world, guys. Okay, we're not being shy about it. It's not a conspiracy. We're telling you up front what's going on and what is to come. Case in point, we talk about the bureaucracy a lot. The vast network of people you don't see, you don't know their names, and you don't vote for them. People who have been in office in their, government agency or non-governmental organization for decades. You go and you vote for a president, tops that president gets 8 years. We're talking about people who have been in place for decades, like Klaus Schwab, the head of the International Monetary Fund. Schwab has been the head of that organization for over 50 years, okay? He's entrenched. He's powerful. And guess what? He's telling you that now's the time. The chess pieces are being arranged. He's got a lot of people in place in the bureaucracies, okay? People who are not accountable to you, who are engineering and setting in place policies that are going to provide the government with a lot more control over your daily life.
And I have to say, when I mention our names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, so that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
And that's true in Argentina too. Wow. Yeah. Sorry. That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now. I'm with the president.
So when people tell you who they are and what they're doing, believe them, okay? This individual is extremely well thought of around the world. You know he's got people in place that, report up to him, and he can give them directives. The Bank of International Settlements, we had a video the other day which talked about the Bank of International Settlements and how they are basically pushing the central bank digital currency idea and concept out to the central banks of the world. Now remember, the Bank of International Settlements is the central bank of central banks. A lot of people don't buy into the CBDC or the central bank digital currency concept, but it's coming. It's here in quite a few cases. Given how much is at stake, this financial revolution is among the most important questions today's society could possibly grapple with. It should be under discussion in every parliament, in every land, in every dinner table, in every country in the world. And they are absolutely right. People aren't talking about this. Share this video, guys. Get people talking about it. This audience is savvy and smart, knows what's going on, and I appreciate that. But we're a small audience, and we're never going to be one of these really, really big channels, okay? Because people don't talk about money, all right? If you look at all of the financial channels, there's some really, really fabulous ones out there. They have a certain amount of subscribers and viewers on average, and it's cool. But share this information because we need to get it out to people, because this is coming. Around 90 central banks are either in the process of experimenting with or are already piloting central bank digital currencies. In a world of just over 190 countries, that's a large contingent. But given they include the European Central Bank, which alone represents 19 euro area economies, the actual number of economies involved is well over 100. They include all G20 economies and together represent more than 90% of the global GDP. A lot of people got left behind when the whole computer internet revolution occurred. These people were like my mother's age, okay, her generation. My mother, God rest her soul, she was 70 when she passed away. So she was a baby boomer, okay. A lot of them got caught with not understanding that revolution and not taking it seriously, okay. Funny story real quick. So my mother, I bought her a Roku so she could watch all her shows and we would have to pay less for cable. So, oh man, this Roku, it had so many problems and I had to go to her apartment every time to fix it, okay, because she just didn't know how. And I would try to give her instructions over the phone, it just wouldn't work. So she had a favorite show, I forget which show it was, but it was some cooking show. She loved this show, she could not miss an episode. And she said, this thing isn't working. You need to come down here and fix it. I said, I can't do it. And I couldn't. I said, I got a meeting. I can't get down there. But I can try to help you. You know, my mother, because she had the proper incentive, she could have been a Roku tier 2 tech support person. Because she wanted to watch that show so bad, she finally figured it out. But my mother was not the most tech savvy person. She had been caught. My mother was a secretary at one point, and she had the electric typewriter was the height of technology back then, and she got into word processing at one point, and that was cool. But there are a lot of people that are going to be left behind if they don't recognize what is going on. 3 CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, have already gone fully live in the past 2 years. The so-called D-Cash in the Eastern Caribbean, the Sand Dollar in the Bahamas, and the Naira in Nigeria. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, those are small countries. Then, Nigeria is one of, if not I think they might be the second largest economy in Africa. And they're actually, I read something the other day that said that if you're going to look at potential African superpowers, Nigeria is definitely one, okay? They got a lot of natural resources. They do a lot of export and trade. They are no slouches. And look, we're not going to sit here and take the Bahamas and the Eastern Caribbean for jokes either. I mean, these things start somewhere, right? So the International Monetary Fund, the world's most powerful supranational financial institution, has been lending its expertise in the rollout of CBDCs. In a recent speech, the fund's president, this is a tough one, Kristalina Georgieva, I hope I pronounced your name right, ma'am, lauded the potential benefits of CBDCs while heaping praise on the ingenuity of the central banks busily trying to conjure them into existence. So again, we see a lot of impetus behind that, a lot of energy going into figuring out how to do it. And you do it in smaller territories like the Bahamas, like the Eastern Caribbean. If you want to look at it and say, oh, okay, well, we need to tweak this, we need to tweak that. Now, what CBDCs are going to do is, as Saul Amonrova told us when she was being examined for the nomination to the comptroller of the currency, is going to give governments unprecedented power over how you spend your money and even how you make your money. How many rounds of ammunition do you think you're going to be able to buy when the government has control over what you spend and how you spend it? Amrova told us that she can envision a time in which if inflation reared its ugly head, then the government could just say, hey, Americans, you have spending limits. You cannot go out there and just spend. And look, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but there will come a time when you'll only be able to spend so much at any given place. They'll have that capability so that there will be no more runs on toilet paper, okay? Because, oh, wait a minute. That SKU on that item corresponds to a limit that we've placed on that item. You got 6 rolls, you should only have 2. So this kind of thing, I'm only half engaging in hyperbole. It's here, okay? I don't know what to tell you if you don't believe that this is the future. They want to control how you behave. And we see that in China. They have a very well-developed social credit system, and every citizen has a social credit score. You run afoul of that, and that score drops, you will not be able to travel. You'll not be able to rent certain housing. You'll not be able to enjoy going to certain eateries, or they'll condense you down into mere existence. And if you keep acting up, it might result in you being put out on the street as a beggar, okay? And nobody's putting any money in your cup because that'll be a violation and that'll drop their score, okay? So yeah, this might sound like fantastical. It's taking place. Remember, guys, up in Canada just a few months ago, they said, look, if you donate to this specific cause, we're going to crush you financially. We're going to suspend your ability to bank. A woman donated $50 to those truckers. She had kids, and they cut off her banking ability. Now, they came out and reversed all that. They slapped, what's his name? Fidel Castro's son, Trudeau. They slapped his hand and said, wait a minute, you're moving a little too fast. We didn't want to play that card until a few years down the road. And he quickly reversed course, okay? In the latest letter to investors, the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, said the Ukrainian conflict has the potential to accelerate the development of digital currencies around the world. He said the Russian invasion of Ukraine has put an end to the globalization we have experienced over the last 3 decades. As a result, a large-scale reorientation of supply chains will inherently be inflationary. The war will prompt countries to reevaluate their currency dependencies. We talk about that all the time, where now that Biden has decided to weaponize the dollar, countries are reevaluating their dependency on the dollar. That will help lead, along with our tremendous amount of debt and profligate spending, to the demise of the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Even before the war, several governments were looking to play a more active role in digital currencies and define the regulatory framework under which they operate. So this war has served not only to enrich Nancy Pelosi and a lot of her friends in the Congress. If you look at their investments, they went heavy on defense contractors prior to the war. But it's also serving as kind of an excuse or a catalyst to get these CBDCs going. A global digital payment system thoughtfully designed can enhance the settlement of international transactions while reducing the risk of money laundering and corruption. They always talk about that because that's the one you're supposed to glom onto and say, hey, I oppose money laundering and corruption, so go ahead and take away my rights and my privacy and all that, and establish something that will ultimately, the purpose of which will ultimately be to have control over me. But yeah, go ahead, do it under the guise of money laundering and corruption or whatever. If you want to root out money laundering and corruption, you should send a squad of FBI agents into the U.S. Capitol with search warrants and handcuffs, because that's where the root of corruption resides. A global digital payment system, again, thoughtfully designed, can enhance the settlements and blah, blah, blah. Digital currencies can also help bring down the cost of cross-border payments. For example, when expatriate workers send earnings back to their families. See, so they dress it up in all of this altruistic. Here's this little guy. He's a immigrant, hardworking. He's got the family back in the motherland, and all he wants to do is send the money back so they can dig a new well and they can buy a new cow, or, you know, the mother, she's blind. And so why are we holding off on CBDCs that would reduce the cost of him sending? He could save $5. That's $5 for the mom who's blind. You know, this is how they dress it up. Don't fall for that garbage. On Tuesday, March 22nd, the Bank of International Settlements published the findings of a study it had conducted with 4 central banks: the Reserve Bank of Australia, Bank Nigeria, Malaysia, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and the South African Reserve Bank. Now, the study went into the practical challenges of executing cross-border payments between different central banks and digital currencies. The report concludes that while major hurdles still remain, financial institutions could use CBDCs issued by participating central banks to transact directly with each other on a shared platform. That's why I think that the Treasury, they're going to lose that battle. There's a little battle going on in Congress right now as to who's going to control the American central bank digital currency. Will it be issued by the Treasury, or will it be issued by the Fed? It's going to be issued by the Fed, because the Bank of International Settlements is a very powerful organization, and they are in lockstep with the International Monetary Fund and the World Economic Fund, and they're all pushing for central banks to control these central bank digital currencies. All right, so I've got a bet with a very good friend of mine. I hope he's watching this video. He knows who he is. I got a bet, and I bet that this thing is going to come into fruition. We are going to have central bank digital currencies. And this bet, we've got a bet. This bet is for a pretty handsome ransom.
$1.
All right, so why did they want to do it? Why must they have this? This is the reason that should tell you everything you need to know in terms of the fact that this is going to happen. A central bank digital currency system will technically no longer require middlemen such as banks or credit card companies. That said, one can safely assume that the largest financial institutions, most of which have been helping to install the architecture for the CBD system, will find a new role in the new digital reality. Central banks will retain complete oversight and control over the creation, destruction, and movement of money, no matter where it is held or who has it. As we talked about, we had him, his remarks, Augustine Carstens, on the video the other day. He's the general manager of the Bank of International Settlements, and he said, we don't know who's using a $100 bill today, and we don't know who's using a $1,000 peso bill today. The key difference with the CBDC is the central bank will have absolute control over the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce it. Okay? So, hey, you think this guy's just talking out the side of his head? You don't think that that statement ran through an army of lawyers, okay, and policy people before he made it? All right, I can guarantee you it did. The power to program our spending. One way central banks could use its expanded influence is to exert control over people's spending habits. In June 2021, the Daily Telegraph reported that the Bank of England had asked the government ministers to decide whether a central bank digital currency should be programmable. Okay? According to Tom Mutton, a director at the Bank of England, there could be some socially beneficial outcomes from that. This is a quote from him. Preventing activity which is seen to be socially harmful in some way. This could bring huge advantages to both governments and central banks. So, an election, okay? And you got a guy like Donald Trump, who's bombastic and who is not beholden to these powers, and they can't start wars with, using this guy as the president, and no war, no money. So in order to influence your behavior, let's say you're not able to access news. That's here now. You're not able to participate in maybe a rally for a particular candidate. That's here now. See Canada. The Fed could directly subtract taxes and fees from any account in real time with every transaction or paycheck if it wished. There could be no more tax evasion. All the under-the-table jobs, done. The Fed would have a complete record of every transaction made by everyone. Money laundering, terrorist financing, which is facilitated by the dollar right now, the paper dollar. Any other unapproved transaction would become extremely difficult. Fines, such as for speeding or jaywalking, could be levied in real time if CBDC accounts were connected to a network of smart city surveillance, nor would there be any need to mail out stimulus checks, tax refunds, or other benefits, such as universal basic income payments. That's another video altogether. Such money could just be deposited directly into accounts, but a CBDC would allow governments to operate at a much higher resolution than that you might wish. Basically, if they could put money into the account, what do you think? They won't be able to take it out? Or they won't be able to suspend the movement of it? So this is what's going on. So, folks, this is a bureaucrat's wet dream. The governments of the world are arcing toward tyranny, okay? And you've got a lot of people in government who were not able to make it in any other facet of life. So now they're in government. And they're like these homeowners association presidents on steroids. They want to control. One of the most important benefits of cash is its universality, making it a vital public good, particularly for the poorest and most vulnerable in society. Also excluded in a purely cashless society would be anyone who objected to having others spy on their transactions. As I note in my book, this is the author talking, Scanned, Why Vaccine Passports and Digital Identity Will Mean the End of Privacy and Personal Freedom, if central banks and governments were to do away with cash or to vastly accelerate its demise by penalizing its use, while incentivizing the use of CBDCs, we would probably see a huge increase in financial exclusion. There's a slavery. There's a type of slavery being developed, and it's not color dependent. Okay, it's for all of us, with slavery and injustice for us all. I put that on one of the thumbnails the other day. Even proponents of CBDCs admit that the central bank digital currencies could have serious drawbacks, including further exacerbating income and wealth inequality. The rich might be more capable than others of taking advantage of new investment opportunities and reaping most of the benefits, says Eswar Prasdam, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute and author of The Future of Money, How the Digital Revolution is Transforming Currencies and Finance. As the economically marginalized have limited digital access and lack financial literacy, some of the changes could harm as much as they could help. So not only will the introduction of CBDCs strip global citizens of one of the last vestiges of freedom, privacy, and anonymity through the use of cash, it could also exacerbate the upward transfer of wealth and power that many societies have witnessed since the COVID-19 pandemic began. I'm going to use an example. All right, people who strip, okay, strippers. Now, I could be wrong here, but I don't think that, do they take PayPal? I don't think so. I think that there's a popular colloquialism of the $1 bill and maybe the $5 bill, and you put it over into the garter or whatever, okay? No. You can't do that with a CBDC. And I'm using that example as an example of economic freedom, not just for people to go and participate in this activity, but for the stripper to be able to participate in that line of commerce. Okay, I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but not by much. So those types of activities, depending on who's in office, the way you vote, what you read, what you listen to, all of that could be thrown into this vast social credit system soup, scoring system soup, to oppress you, okay? And that's what's happening. We're going to talk and we have talked extensively in previous videos about how you can, mitigate this. Go back and look at some of those videos, and we're going to do a longer format video coming up. And I know this has been long, but it's been necessary because this stuff is coming, and I want people to understand that so they're not caught with their pants down. And they're just on the receiving end of this, okay, without any infrastructure in place to mitigate it, okay? If you run afoul of the government and you got a mortgage payment coming, okay, under the CBDC system, you run afoul of the government, the media, or one of these non-governmental organizations, and you got a mortgage payment coming and they suspend your ability to buy and sell, Facebook, for example, YouTube. You say something they don't like, they suspend you, okay, for a period of time, or they just get rid of you. Can your economy handle being suspended from your bank account for a period of time or forever? Again, guys, it's not hyperbole if we've seen it happen in Canada. All right, more to come. I will talk to you soon. To learn more about how you can achieve financial independence, check out these videos we recently posted on the Money Changes Everything channel.